I'm gonna finally touch on the most asked question that I've gotten, which is um, how to get more movement with line artwork. So it's folds and waves and yeah, how to make things look more fluid. So that's what this one's going to be all about. I'm going to show a few different things, a few different methods, a few different techniques that I've found over time. So I'm going to try to lay this out as best as I can with maybe even a few bullet points so that we can jump around from topic to topic and like make it concise. So I'm going to turn this around. We're going to get into it. I wanted to put this up so that we had kind of a frame of reference to go by. So when I'm doing this, I'm not seeing a lot of movement and flowing and stuff. I'm more or less just in it for the lines because each one I put down gives me a little dopamine hit and I feel good about it. So it's more cathartic for me. But I've noticed that some portions, some pieces have better movement and flow, and that's more or less what I know everybody wants to be able to do, and what the style is kind of going for, to give more of a fluid. So I'm going to try to explain how to get some of these really nice folds and peaks and waves as best I can, and lay it out in a way that makes more sense. So I'm going to use what I've said in the past tutorials and try to make it a whole thing so that we can all use it going forward into the rest of it. So I think what I'm going to do, and it's not the way that I usually do it, because I go by I just fly. I just do it. I just do what I feel like. But I think what I'm going to do to help illustrate the point and be able to use what I've said in the last couple of tutorials is I'm going to sketch out a little bit, and then we're going to use the two basic shapes that I've talked about to be able to build some folds and waves and movement in the pieces, rather than just being a static, flat piece. So I think that'll be about the best place to start from. So with that in mind, first bullet point is sketch. I'm going to sketch out a shape, and I'm going to fill it in a little bit with a pencil, just so that I can get a rough idea of what I'm looking at. And I think later on in this video, I'll go through and I'll show what I do to really, to show just what I do, because it's the sketching part is not what I do at all. So it'll be nice to get that contrast of the two different things. So start out with sketch out a shape, fill in a little bit using the method that I've said before, where you make the shapes and then fill in the shapes. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to pause it here and get that set up. Canvas, blank canvas, ready to rock. So I'm going to sketch out. I'm going to sketch it out just a little bit. All right, so got my eraser, got my pencil, switch them around. That's the way I do things. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of sketching and maybe talk about what I want to do. For this, if I'm using any sort of pencil, I'm going to put on my hand protecty thing, because I'm going to definitely smudge stuff if I don't use it. So I think just to make things super easy, I'm going to do just a basic shape of a little bit of that and a little bit of this. From there, I might even I'm going to add a little rounded guy right here, like that. So with that in mind, I'm going to go through and I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to pull lines all the way down to here, and I'm going to have them conjoin. All of these guys are going to conjoin down into this spot. Now, again, this is a base. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. It's okay to have things not go the way that you have them sketched, especially with something as fluid as this. So next I'm going to grab, I think I'm going to go with a bigger pen tip. I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit so we can all see easier. Okay, so again, I'm going to be starting up here, and I'm going to pull it all the way down to the bottom with one solid line. This is a 0.5 millimeter pen tip, and this is just to see what happens. And as I go, I think I'm going to try to follow the shape that I have laid out, because that might give some fun dimension building with this point right here. Start there, go all the way down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this with many, many lines in between. Hi. Yeah? What's up? And again, I'm not using my hand. I'm pulling with my arm. So it maintains. Hi. It means that I can do bigger motions a lot more fluidly. Right here. I've done this in the past. This is a big moment because this is the halfway point. So now I can either continue doing the same shape, or I can have it start to bulge out like it does on this side. So I'm gonna make it follow what I've done. Sorry, cat hair. I'm going to make it follow the shape that I have sketched. There might still be a cat hair in my eye. Nope, moving on. So, fill this in. Halfway point. I remember years ago, I remember doing this just to get this shape. This is one of my key shapes that I use constantly. And I normally don't sketch them out anymore. It just happens because I'm so used to how they look on paper. I'm going to continue to bring that over, and I'm going to try to follow this shape as best I can. And again, if it doesn't happen, that's okay, because this is a very on the fly type of style. You move and change as things go on. Hi, Amaru. What you want? Yeah. And by making the pattern spread out a little bit through here the other way, it's giving kind of a rounded look to it. What? Yeah. The cats have been in a particular mood today. And it's getting just a little tiresome. Yes, I know. Come on up. So, continuing this out, I'm going to keep following this shape. And so now I've reached the edge of that sketch that I did. And I'm just going to keep following it all the way along. There she is. Now she's calming down. It's really nice when she decides to calm down, because she can be so much, so much all the time. And if I say her name, she'll get riled up again, so I have to ignore her and not talk to her. But she can hear me and she knows I'm talking about her right now, and I'm watching her on the camera. But we're just going to keep going forward. So, this is where the fold can happen. So this last line that I put down right here, and I'm going to turn on my other camera. So with my second camera, you'll be able to see a little bit different angle. So not top down, my hand might not be hiding it as much. You might be able to see the pen stroke a little bit easier. Now, this last pen stroke that I put in, it is a little bit out of place. Like it doesn't quite belong. So, because it doesn't connect up here, it kind of just spawns from down here. It just is created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use that to my advantage. I'm going to sketch it just a little bit first so that we all can see what I'm going to do. And this will create a really nice fold over. So you take this, and I'm going to sketch the outside of it. And you bring it up and around like this and back down. It's really important to get all of these lines converging into the same location. Really important, because then you can get that dimension. So now this builds out of there, and it will make a kind of a different shape mixed in with the original shape. But I will do that now. I don't want to skip around too much. So I'm going to show that really quick. And again, very important to keep lines converging into one spot. And now that I've got a few, here's another tip. So instead of trying to force this back down and around, I'm going to bring it up back here like this and then around, because now I have this new converging point, this new spot of all where the lines are created. So I'm creating a new one of these here. So I'll bring this out and around and back down to, again, this point down here. And that will create a lot of dimension. First, I got to follow this line. There. Okay. Now I can go up and around. And that means that I'm going to finish this line a little bit sooner than bringing it here. And that's going to, again, create a new vertice point that I can build off of in the future. There. So now we can see it kind of has like a top smooth dome shape to it, and then it smooths back down, and then it has that again top down kind of smooth, like a bowl, like the bottom of a bowl, that kind of thing. And it all converges to these points. So this is using that first basic shape, the pointy one. And then I'm going to use this to show the other one. This one's harder. And I don't use it as often because I don't like it as much. But it can add a lot of really cool dimension. So I'll sketch a little bit with this guy too. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm actually going to, so I'm going to sketch it a little bit first. And I'm going to move this so that we can all see properly. There. Okay, so I'm going to start using this convergence of lines to go all the way around with one pen stroke and fill it and bring it back down into this one. because that'll get that dimension that we all want. So, and then from there, I'm just going to continue doing that, kind of like this. And trying to find the high spots. It's like shading. So on a curved shape, you'll have your highlight where the light's going to hit it on the top of a curve. So that's what we're going to try to do here, where the top, at least in my mind, it can be done a totally different way. Any way that works best for you. But in my mind, this is like a highlight. So if you spread those lines apart, it gives that shading, that light, the shimmer, the highlight. And so I'm going to bring these lines a little bit farther apart, more and more as we get closer to that, but also maintain that these lines come all the way down to this spot. At some point, we're going to start going really small right through here, but that's the general idea for that. So I'm going to go back in with my pen and fill it in so that we can kind of see what happens. Again, starting here, we're going to end down here. So plan your movements a little bit beforehand. Get that practice stroke in once or twice before you lead into it, because sometimes these big pen strokes can be kind of tough. Yeah, so getting a little bit of pre-muscle memory is good, especially because right here, my hand is covering up most of where I'm going. So I'm going to be flying blind for just a little bit until I can see it again. So it's going to change a little bit. Be prepared for it to not look quite right. But that's what's going to happen. Yep, right there. Bring it back down into that point, like that. And again, same thing. Bring it up and around. Can't see, can see. Back down and into that point. What's really nice is that these pens don't erase very well. So you can go over it with an eraser and get just the ink, but not get just the pencil, but not the ink. You'll lift up a little bit here and there, and you might have to do just a scotch, a touch up, but in the end, not anything too crazy. And here's where we have another dilemma. So I'm going to be bringing all of these kind of into themselves soon. So I'm going to be doing more of this rather than this. It'll make sense in a second. We'll do a few more until we run into that issue. Right there, that's going to be our changing spot. And we still want to fill this in as best we can. And again, this is like a highlight. So this is a high spot, at least in my mind. And so you see how I'm not converging everything down. I could, but like that. So then it has kind of like this low spot, high spot, high spot, high spot all the way around. And that's one way to get a nice curve, a nice fold. From here, this is lined up beautifully to continue this pattern out and around. So I'll do that. I'm going to erase just a little bit first so that we can see how well this goes away without losing any ink off the page. And just like that, all the pencil is gone. That's it's just a modification. The rest of it is all a modification of what I just did. Yeah, building things out and around, finding the spots where you can make these shapes over again without having to sketch it out. That's my main thing, is like I don't like to sketch things out beforehand. That's me. It's totally fine to sketch things out. I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing. So I'm going to build this out and down and around like that. I'll use my pencil to show. And this will be the first line, out and around and down. But if you bring it from the top here and into here, again, this is the vertice. This is the convergence of all the lines, of all the ink. So you want to bring things to here so that it will make that low spot, that fold, the dimension that you want. And I've started to bring it past that point, so I'm going to make a new low spot. And now I'm not going to continue this because it's kind of got a weird lump. So I'm going to make a new one. And now I'm going to bring this center out like this. Like that. So that will give that, once again, fold down tight space, bring it back out into a shiny spot, a highlight, that's the word. Like that. Yeah. And you can always go back and touch up like what I just did. It makes it way easy. Am I pushing the table away from me? I'm going to make this bullet point like number 2 or something. So we're going to do an advanced move. We're going to make a fold over. There's a cat in here now. Hi. Do you want to get in my lap? You want up? What do you think? All right. It's the orange one. There he is. All right. All right. I'm going to get comfy. There's his tail. Because he's a boy. The tail. Advanced move. So this is going to be, I'm going to use this spot right here, and I'm going to make it fold over on itself by building up and around and down into itself at the same time. So how this works is you continue the shape, but you build from the top down, and then eventually you get a little, this part right here, this is really important. That spot is where you start pulling it in from the peak, the top of this, and make another line that ends right here. And by doing so, going to make, and then you continue, you want this to be pushed forward and around and down. So we're going to draw this highlight out and around and down. and you want to keep that peak, the lines fairly separated all the way across here. Not right on the very top, but just a little bit below. And then you want it to end. Just like that. So that will give you this fold over kind of look. I'm going to have to go to a smaller pen tip for this. This is another key point, which I'll add in here in a little bit. But pen tip size is huge. Oh, that's funny. Like that. Now with all that pencil in there, it looks kind of messy and gross. So we're going to give that a second to dry. Maybe pet the cat that's in your lap a little bit. Right, Bjorn? Psst, psst. Yeah. Hey, big guy. And then erase it. And that gives a much better look. So it folds in on itself and has that little peak, which you can also use to bring it back down and around. All these little things here and there. I think, yeah. So this will bring us to however many, 3. This is our third bullet point that I'm totally keeping track of. Pen tip size. Immensely important, because that will allow you to manipulate how your pieces interact with each other. So this one so far, I've just used a 0.5 and a 0.3 millimeter pen tip. And that will give you a steady amount of dimension. Going to drastic size difference, let's grab a 0.1. So, nope, that is a dyslexic nightmare. 0.1 and 1 point are completely different. So, for example, this guy, which is a 0.5 millimeter pen tip, going to a 0.1 millimeter pen tip. So you can see the huge difference in size. This is important for, of course, getting dimension and folds and waves and stuff. I still have an orange cat sitting in my lap, so he's just rearranging himself. For example, if I were to use the larger pen tip size in here, I won't be able to get the same dimension if I use the 0.1 millimeter pen tip size, just from the tight space. This will also get more, it'll make it so that you can get your lines closer together, which is also a huge thing when it comes to making this style of art and how things interact with each other. So again, I'm going to go here in that tiny little spot. I'm going to sketch it out a little bit first so we can all see. So using what I have available to me in this little space, I'm going to go and do a little something like this. Building from the very tip of this peak, I'm going to make the opposite shape coming the other way. And this is going to give, again, the opposite effect of this, where this has a fold in down into itself. This one's going to be pulled out and around. And eventually I'm going to have it be like that. One big thing. Big thing. Big shape. So I'm going to get these lines curved from this direction to this direction. And it's just a slow line by line little process. So right there, it's almost straight. And right there, it's pretty much straight and curving around at the bottom towards the other direction. And now I can go the other direction. Like that. And it's okay if you do choose to sketch things out like this beforehand and then fill it back in. It is okay to not follow your original shape, because I could plan something like this, but right here it's not going to look good in my opinion up top. So you can always change how you're going to do things, because this is a very fluid style. So I'm going to fill this back in. Okay. Yep. And away we go. And the smaller pen tips are going to make it so that you can get them closer together. And so it's not going to follow my sketch here very well. I'm going to deviate pretty quickly from it. Maybe not. I can keep to it. Yeah, I can keep to this. It's hard to see amidst all that mess. So let's give it a second, let it dry, and erase it. Air bubble in my needed eraser. So they feed into each other in that tight space. I generally use I use a lot of different pen tip sizes, but the ones I use the most are going to be 0.5 and 0.3 millimeter. Those to me feel like the best size. Once you start getting into small details and spaces, smaller pen tips make a lot more sense, but for the most part, I'm going to be using a 0.3 and a 0.5. I think I've decided that the 0.3 is my most versatile pen, because it can do so many different things. But that's me. That's how I like to do things. So that would be a fold, and then the opposite fold going the other way. The next point, and I think this is a big one that I've been kind of touching on a little bit throughout the whole thing, is pen, how close the pen strokes are to each other. The farther away they get, the more of a highlight they give. The closer they get, the more depth and like a dip that you'll see. So I'm going to erase what I did before so that we can get a good idea of what's going to happen. So I'm going to fill this space in, and I'm going to make these lines real close together. And then once I'll sketch it out so that it's easier to understand, because otherwise I'm just talking about lines. So I'm going to fill in this space here, and I'm going to go from a curved inward shape to a curved outward shape. And I'm trying to draw this portion right through here. I'm going to be making like that sort of a shape, and going this. And as I continue that, I'm going to get up here, and this is where the highlight, I want to keep that. So the lines are going to get farther apart here and closer together in this area and up at top. So I'm probably going to just go right there and right here. So shape is more or less like this. But to start, I'm going to be like this. And this will get that fold that we want. And again, the lines I want to be really close together. So you can already see how they're getting spaced apart in the top portion. I deviated a little bit up at top, like this. I'm going to keep deviating. There. So it continued around and it goes that way. And so then I can do the same thing where I can pull from up here, up top, and bring it back down to this spot. And that will get another fold like here, going the opposite direction. So while I'm on a roll, I'm just going to show that real quick. So start a little bit farther up, pull it down, and then I'm going to have it kill right here and farther up. So this line is going to go like this now. And I could do the same thing again, where I pull that line around and down like that. So then that line is going to continue like that. And that's the high point. That's the peak. I'm going to go back in with this 0.3 millimeter pen tip, wherever my camera is, right there. And I'm going to just recreate that shape. I'm going to start, instead of starting up top and trying to do all this, I'm going to start where it's simple in here and do the same thing and build out. I'm just going to follow the exact same blueprint that I laid out for myself from the beginning. And again, things are going to change from the sketch to the finished, just because that's how this goes. It's never finite, always changing. I'm trying really hard to keep it the same though. And now I've switched from arm motions down to just hand motions. And this is a reason why I don't like sketching it out in as much detail from the beginning, because I'm dyslexic, and so I focus on the wrong one. So once I erase this, it's going to look different than how I want it to, but that's okay. Let it dry, and yeah. I'm going to touch up a couple of spots so that we can see this happen a little bit better. It looks better in the pencil because that's why I sketched first, but you can see how that transfers around and makes that high spot all in the middle. That's more or less how to get some nice folds to things. Keeping the strokes really close together is going to be your best friend. And being able to figure out the pivot point of your palm is also going to be a big crucial thing when it comes to making the same pen stroke over and over and over again. That was a very crucial piece of the puzzle that when it clicked for me, it was really, really important, is keeping the strokes really close together, because then you have that control of how things fold and move and bend and sway. It's way easier in my opinion. And then if you bring these peaks out higher and then closer again, you can get that drastic fold very simply, very easily. I personally do a lot of freehanding. I don't do sketching beforehand because to me it messes me up. And I also don't like that I can barely see that little bit of graphite on the paper left over, even after you erase it. It's hard to get rid of that altogether. But definitely try sketching things out. Get an idea of where you're going, how things fold, how things move. And keep in mind the pattern, keeping the pattern as close together as you can without making it touch. That will give, once I got that, it was just night and day difference in my artwork. Going from big shapes like this down to really close together fine shapes like that, it made a huge difference. So that's point number 4, bullet point number 4. We'll see if I have these bullet points in here, but that's a big one. That's a huge piece. I hope that was helpful. It's hard for me to articulate exactly how I make these folds and waves. Just from me doing this for years and years, I don't really have, it's more seeing it happen, and that's when I know when to do things. It's not so much planning it out beforehand. It's very, very fluid. It just sort of happens. When I do sketch things out, I more or less have a big, broad shape, and then I fill in with small shapes. But that's the basics of it. I can go into more detail on how to keep things close together, muscle memory, that sort of thing in the future. But for now, I think that will close out Folds and Waves Part 1, or Folds and Waves. That'll be it. Tutorial number 4, Folds and Waves. Thank you so much for watching. Again, check out my website if you can, isaacpryorart.com. I have a Patreon. I am working on updating the Patreon. It's been a couple years since I've really been on there, but with my new life changes, I want to get that running again. I have a Discord channel. If you become a member of my YouTube, you're granted access to the Discord channel. The more people that are in there, the more we get talking about how to do this stuff, the better. I think it would be so much fun to have a whole bunch of line artists in one place that we can all bounce ideas off of each other. So yeah, check that out. If you can become a member, awesome. That will boost things, not only for me, but also it'll get more exposure for you into the world of line artwork. Get us all together in one spot. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, bye.